Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
On my naked skin, passing silhouette, strange illuminated mannequins. Shall I stay here at the zoo, or shall I go and change my point of view for other ugly scenes?
I quit. I'm done. Welcome to episode 81 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Ep 81, peoples. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your murdery. Welcome to another week of something, that's for sure. I guess to find out what we're talking about, I'll step over to the nerdery side of the house and Zig, take it over.
This is so awesome. So this is a list that it was requested that we do. This is a song list that was curated by fans.
Awesome.
Yes, and the fans have asked that their names go ahead and be shouted out. So I'm going to do that now. This fan-curated song list was curated by Sherry Kaufman Armitage, who sent us a picture with her doggy, which will be in the list.
Nice.
Will Tillman, Robin Rhine, and it was checked out and approved by Nalani. Cool. Nalani, our patron.
Cool.
So it is a fan curated list, and it starts with the band Coven and the song 110 Soldier. It was the main theme song for the movie Billy Jack. So this was actually kind of a big song. Coven is an American rock band formed in Chicago in the late 60s, and they had a top 40 hit in 1971 with the song One Tin Soldier, which was the theme song to the movie Billy Jack. Coven was composed by vocalist Esther Jinx Dawson, bassist Greg Oz Osborne, guitarist Chris Nielsen, keyboardist Rick Durrett, later replaced by John Hobbs, and drummer Steve Ross. In addition to pioneering occult rock with lyrics and aesthetics that explicitly deal in themes of Satanism and witchcraft, they are recognized by metal fans and metal historians as being the band that introduced the sign of the horns to rock, metal, and pop culture. As seen in their 1969 debut album released Witchcraft Destroys Minds and Reaps Souls, Dawson recorded the vocals for One Tin Soldier, the title theme to the 71 Billy Jack film. But it was credited as being done by Coven, even though she just sang it. But it went on to reach number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was written by Dennis Lambert and Bryant Potter and was originally released by original cast in 1969. Coven's version also reached the top 10 in Cashbox and was named the number one most requested song in 1971 and in 1973 by American radio broadcasters. It also peaked at number 45 in Australia. In 71, the band released a self-titled album that included One Tin Soldier. Their third album, Blood on the Snow, was produced by Shel Tamley and released by Buddha Records in 1974. Disney also produced the music video for the title track, which I have included. So they actually made a video, back in the day when only weird little artsy fartsy bands would make videos. They actually made one and had Disney produce it.
It's interesting.
Yeah. You've heard this one, right? You've seen Billy Jack, right?
Nope.
You've never seen Billy Jack?
No.
Oh, wow. It's like Rambo before Rambo. Only it concerns, Native Americans on a reservation. And he's like an ex-army guy who basically protects them. But everybody's telling him to be nonviolent, but he's just this kung fu guy. It's great. The next song was Face to Face. The next song was 1098 by Face to Face. They were an American new wave quintet from Boston, Massachusetts. Guitarist Stuart Kimball formed the band with close friend in New Hampshire during the late 70s. The lineup was Laurie Sargent on vocals, Kimball on guitars and keyboards, Angelo Petraglia, identified on the album simply as Angelo, on guitars and keyboards, and John Ryder on bass, and Billy Beard on drums. They moved to Boston in 1980 and played there until signing with Epic Records in 1982. The band's biggest hit was 1098 from their self-titled first album, which peaked at number 38 on the Billboard Hot 100 the week ending July 20th, 1984. In the 1984 movie Streets of Fire, which we've spoken about before, the fictional band Ellen Aim and the Attackers, supposedly headed by Diane Lane, was actually this band. It was Face to Face.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Laurie billed as being a member of Fire Incorporated, but the lead vocals are actually Laurie Sargent. It's not Diane Lane singing. She was just lip syncing. But Never Be You and Sorcerer were penned by Jim Steinman, but they allowed Face to Face eventually to release them on an album, which did pretty well. 1098 is the debut single of Face to Face, originally released in 84 in the United States. It peaked at number 38 on the Billboard Hot 100 the week ending in July 20th, 1984, and number 7 on the dance chart. So this song was kind of big on the pop chart. This kind of new wavy, but it was before they took that off of pop radio. So you could hear this on regular pop bubblegum radio. Is this one you've heard before?
I'm sure I have. I've seen Streets of Fire, so I'm sure I've heard this song.
It's pretty cool. It's kind of jazzy. Not normally something I would pick. This is one of Sherry Kaufman's favorite tunes.
Cool.
Yeah. And she just loves it. She's like, no one ever talks about the song. I'm like, well, I'll talk about it. it's pretty good. It's nice and jazzy. And again, we do have a YouTube playlist out here for for this, so you guys can go out and check it out. The next song is "I Need You Like a Drug" by They Eat Their Own. They were a punk alternative rock band formed by vocalist Lori B in Los Angeles, California around 1989. And the band split in 1994. Members include Laura B, Kevin Dixon on guitars, Shark Darkwater on guitars, Shark Darkwater, JD Dotson on bass, and John Brown on drums. Um, so Laura B is Laura Barasovic. She was a vocalist. She was born in Yugoslavia, but she was raised in New York City and moved to LA in 1989, where she started an alternative rock band, They Eat Their Own. After the band split in 1994, she moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and started the band The Off Labels. There's not a lot out there on They Eat Their Own. Again, this was a big hit on indie radio about 1989, 1990.
Which would be why I don't know it.
Don and I used to obsess about the song. He actually has this on cassette still. I've seen it in his house. I was like, oh, hey, you still got They Eat Their Own. But yeah, this is a good one. That Will and, Sherry and I kind of agreed kind of should be in this list. Cause it's, one of those unsung songs that was really big for about 6 months and then just went away. The next one is the Payolas, stylized as payolas with a dollar sign instead of an S at the end. They were a Canadian rock band that was most prominent in the 1980s, evolving from a new wave sound towards mainstream pop rock. They were best known for the single "Eyes of a Stranger" from their 1982 album "No Stranger to Danger," an album that won the band 4 Juno Awards. And we're talking about "Eyes of a Stranger."
I love this song.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is based in Vancouver. The band has experienced several changes in both its name and lineup, having been known as the Payolas with the dollar sign for the S, Paul Hyde and the Payolas, and Rockin' Hype. Vocalist and lyricist Paul Hyde and multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, and producer Bob Rock were the band's core members throughout its history. The band broke up in '88, but reformed again from 2003 to 2008. The band's name is a reference to the United States payola scandal of the early 60s, which was a pay-for-play scheme involving commercial radio stations. The name caused issue with A&M record executives who wanted to introduce the band to the American market, but who were concerned about the term's negative connotation, which resulted in the band's name changed to Paul Hyde and the Payolas in 1985. One of the reasons why A&M was uncomfortable with promoting them is they were indicted in the payola scam. Rock told the province in 2003 that their band name caused one record executive to tell him, "I won't lift a finger to help you." Rock added that it was Hyde that came up with the name, and I was the idiot who put the dollar sign at the end. But yeah, No Stranger to Danger is the second album by the Payolas. It was released in '82 and contains the single "Eyes of a Stranger." So you know this one, right?
Yes, I know this song.
Yeah, this song is great.
I love this song.
This song kind of rocks, but it's also kind of introspective at the same time. This is one of those tunes that I want to say was on regular radio.
It was.
Yeah. But it was just one of those tunes that was absolute greatness. The next song is by Rainey. It's called Technique, and it is on the Girls Just Want to Have Fun soundtrack. Rainey is also known as Amanda Gunn, Rainey Haynes, Rainey Lewis, and just Rainey. But she's actually from Memphis, Tennessee. In her early 20s, she moved to LA and studied acting and formed a new band made from older Roadhouse musicians. So she'd toured the South when she was very young, like 17, 18, playing basically Southern rock covers and things like that. And she found these old Roadhouse musicians, and then she formed this band, and they recorded the song Technique. Rainey did leave Los Angeles in '92 to live on an island in the Northwest. She has a recording studio, and and a farm where she lives with her husband, Rob, and her son, Jack. Her older son, Robin, still lives in Los Angeles where he makes music as a recording engineer and a disc jockey. But besides writing and recording songs in her island studio, where Rainey paints and sculpts in a workspace in a big white barn on the property. So Rainey's stuff is starting to sell in galleries as well. So she's also known probably more for her sculpting and her painting than she is for being a singer on a pop song that was on a soundtrack of a very popular film in the 1980s. But now she's mostly known for that stuff. But yeah, this one was, again, this is not one that I would have picked. But when I sat down and listened to it, this song's really beautiful. Technique is really, really, again, kind of jazzy, kind of, kind of soft, but at the same time, it's really introspective and well done. Do you know this one?
No, I don't know this one at all.
Did you ever see Girls Just Want to Have Fun?
I may have seen it like once, but
Yeah, like
not
85,
enough,
86.
not
Yeah.
enough to remember a whole lot about it.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I didn't care for the movie, so I don't remember anything from the soundtrack. But
Right.
apparently there were some good tunes on that soundtrack because I went back and listened to it. Again, Cherry Kaufman. Um, so the next song on the list is Tasman Archer's Sleeping Satellites. This was brought to me by Robin Wright. She was a British pop singer from Bradford. Her first album, Great Expectations, spawned the hit Sleeping Satellites, which reached #1 in the United Kingdom and Ireland. She won the Brit Award for British Breakthrough Act in 1993 and has since released 3 more studio albums. Archer joined a group called Dignity as a backing vocalist and played with different bands around the Bradford area. She helped out at a recording studio in Bradford called Flexible Response and subsequently began working with musician John Hughes and John Beck as the Archers. During this time, Archer developed skills in the music business like production and things like that. She signed to EMI in 1990 and released her first single, Sleeping Satellites, in November 1992. In the UK, this was a big hit. I don't know if it played outside of indie radio at all. It wasn't used in a movie or anything. And I honestly didn't remember it until Robin Ryan told me I should listen to it a couple of years ago. And I hit him up. I'm like, hey, I'm making this list on fan curated stuff. I think we should put in Sleeping Satellites. He's like, hell yes, we should put in Sleeping Satellites. That's how Robin became part of this. But basically, it's about the Apollo missions and landing on the moon. And she wanted to characterize it as man's greatest adventure. The sleeping satellite on the title is the moon. So, but she also wanted it to be kind of sad and introspective at the same time. Gary Mon played a Fairlight organ in this, and you can tell, there's this Fairlight organ that's just beautiful in this song, which you didn't hear in the early 90s. Usually people would use a keyboard, but they actually use an old fashioned Fairlight, organ. And you don't know this one either.
No, this is not one I know at all.
Okay. I bet you know the next one. Alphaville, Big in Japan.
Yes, I know this one. I have this one in my playlist.
Yeah, this is a great tune. I think this is their best tune.
I would agree.
What blows me away about Alphaville, so this song, Big in Japan, is about hanging out at the subway station next to the zoo in Berlin, waiting to buy heroin. That's what this song is about. And you pretend to be a big guy because, well, I may not be big here, but I'm big in Japan, which is kind of the idea. But Alphaville is actually a German band. I didn't know this. They all changed their name to English sounding names, because they were in love with English pop music like, the Tubeway Army and Gary Newman and Depeche Mode and stuff like that. But yeah, they formed in Munster in 82 and they gained popularity in the 1980s. The group was founded by singer Marion Gould, Bernhard Lloyd, and Frank Mertens. Again, not their original names. But they achieved chart success with singles Forever Young, Big in Japan, Sounds Like a Melody, The Jet Set, and Dance With Me. Gold remains the only continuous member of Alphaville. Alphaville was formed after lead singer Marion Gould and Bernard Lloyd met in Berlin in 81. The pair were heavily influenced by UK indie acts such as Two Way Army, Gary Newman, and OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Gold had written Big in Japan in 1979 after hearing the music of Holly Johnson's band Big in Japan. They first named their band Forever Young and subsequently changed it to Alphaville after the 1965 science fiction film. Big in Japan is the debut single of the German synth pop band Alphaville. And it's taken from their 1984 debut album Forever Young, which also has Forever Young on it. So this single was successful in many countries, including Germany, Sweden, and Switzerland. It was the group's only UK top 75 hit, reaching number 8 on the UK singles charts. This was a big dance club.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, there's a like a 12-inch single of this that played in dance clubs all the way up until the late 90s. They would use bits of the dun dun da 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 dun 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 and mix it in because it's just a cool little. Well, I don't want to say it's Japanese music, but it's Japanese inspired music. That was kind of the idea. But they had a roll-in system 100M, which they first used to create the bass line. The timing of the song was influenced by the safety dance, which you can kind of hear if you think about it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but they changed the speed to double time halfway through the song. The melody was developed by all 3 members of the band working in their provincial home studio. Marion Gould developed most of the lyrics while going to a dentist. The theme was based on 2 friends who were involved in the sordid drug scene at the Berlin Zoo subway station. The song tells of such lovers who fantasize about being drug-free. The refrain, Big in Japan, symbolizes the idea of being successful in another country. Said Gould, that line has a certain meaning. It means that if you're a complete loser, you're telling other people, I'm not a loser because I'm big in Japan. It's a lie. It's the lie of the losers and fitted perfectly into the story of these junkies, which the song is about in a very tragic way. Very dark, but the song is beautiful. The refrain it's just a great song. It's one of those things that I think doesn't get enough play.
Well, they play it on First Wave all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll hear it at First Wave now, but back in the day, it was like, oh yeah. It's like, hey, do you like Alphaville? Oh yeah, I love Alphaville. Big in Japan is one of my favorite songs. It's like, what? What about Forever Young? Yeah, Forever Young's okay, but it's not Big in Japan. Big in Japan's a great song.
Yeah.
My next one is Downtown by Lloyd Cole. Lloyd Cole is an English singer and songwriter. He was the lead singer of Lloyd Cole and the Commotions from 84 to 89 and has subsequently worked solo. Downtown was a big hit. The Lloyd Cole album was released in 1990 and it produced the singles No Blue Skies, Don't Get Me Weird on My Babe, and of course Downtown. But it was recorded in 2 parts. One side continued the New York rock of his first solo album, while the other side featured a session orchestrated much of the style of Burt Bacharach or Scott Walker. While he remained with Polydor as his record label, the U.S. distribution contract with Capitol Records ended, so U.S. rights were picked up by Ryko Discs. So this was kind of an indie tune. And the album was known as the X album. It's called Lloyd Cole, but there's a picture of him on the front with a big gray X in front of him, and it looks like he's drawing the X. Because of the way his hand's placed, like he's drawn it with a piece of chalk because he's got something in his hand. It's just kind of obscured. And again, it was released by Polydor and Capitol, but was released by Ryko Discs over here. It was featured in the movie Bad Influence, which starred Rob Lowe and James Spader, which was kind of an underground movie, about a really nice guy being influenced by another guy who's just kind of crazy and how it spins this dude's life out of control. Real underrated movie. Great movie with James Spader. It came up about the same time as Jack's Back, which was also an incredible movie with James Spader. But yeah, this song was part of that film, and it scored real big in the indie charts. It also scored in the adult contemporary charts.
It's interesting.
It has kind of an orchestrated feel. It sounds like almost like a Chris Isaac sort of sound to it, if that makes sense. Were you familiar with this one at all?
Nope.
Not this one? Okay.
Nope, I did terrible on my homework.
The next one is Vanity Kills by ABC. They're an English pop band formed in Sheffield in 1980. This was a hit. This one,
well, I know ABC, but I don't know this song.
Vanity Kills. I think you would probably recognize it if you heard it.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was kind of a big one for them. The classic lineup consists of lead singer Martin Fry, guitarist and keyboardist Mark White, saxophonist Stephen Singleton, and drummer David Palmer. ABC achieved 10 UK and 5 US top 40 hit singles between 81 and 1990. And their 1982 debut album, The Lexicon of Love, was a UK #1 album. In the early 80s, success in the US saw them associate with the second British invasion. Now essentially a solo project for Fry, ABC continues to tour and release a ninth studio album, The Lexicon of Love 2, in 2016. ABC had its roots in a band called Vice Versa, which was a Sheffield band, formed by a bunch of synthesizer players, Stephen Singleton and Mark White. They founded their own label, Neutron Records, and released the EP Music 4. Martin Fry, who wrote the fanzine Modern Drugs, interviewed Vice Versa, and shortly afterwards they asked him to join as a synthesizer player. And then they realized he could sing, so they had him sing. So Vanity Kills was released as the third single from their third studio album, How to Be a Zillionaire. It peaked at number 70 on the UK singles charts and reached number 91 on the US Billboard Hot 100. 2 music videos were made by the band ABC. The UK video shows the 4 band members moving around a dark background using simple stop motion camera tricks. But the US version, directed by Peter Kerr, is a spoken prologue and epilogue that presents Martin Fry and Mark White as noir detectives investigating a variety of shady characters. I have included that one because the opening prologue is really cool and the closing postlogue is also really, really cool. But yeah, this is actually I like this one better than Smokey Sings. Yeah, you got Smokey Sings in your head now, right?
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
there's a lot of the kalimba and xylophones sound, that they would use. They use it really heavy in this one, so you get that sound a lot in this. Almost like they used all the percussion was like xylophones, but real muted and underscored. The last song in this list is Send Me an Angel by Real Life.
Oh, I love this song. Do you know, this song always makes me think of Hawk the Slayer.
It's because of the video.
Yes.
Yeah, that first video, which I've included, from the first version of the song, I think it was shot in the same woods. Maybe. Yeah.
But every time I hear this song, I think of Hawk the Slayer.
It's a good tune.
I love this song.
This one was, and this is a conversation between Will and Sherry and myself about which version of these was better. I lost in this argument. I've always thought that the 1989 version was better just because I thought it was cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
And the drum was a little more prominent, but they both like the 1983 version better. So that's the one we went with in the list.
Yeah.
And I included that video that it looks just like Hawk the Slayer. So Real Life was an Australian new wave and synth pop band, which I had no idea. I thought they were English. I didn't know they were Australian. They achieved international chart success with their 1983 single "Send Me an Angel" and "Catch Me I'm Falling," both of which were taken from their debut album Heartland. The bands originally consisted of David Steary, lead vocals and guitars, Richard Zatorsky, keyboards and violin, Alan Johnson, bass, and Danny Simsick on drums. Steve Williams on keyboards was replaced by Zatorsky in 1986 and was replaced by George Pappas in 1995 after a long hiatus of band activity. Now, they were really big in Melbourne. Originally, they wanted to do stuff like In Excess and Me Sax and The Church and Midnight Oil, but they found that they liked the kind of synthesizer sound better. So they opened for a bunch of these bands, playing in and around Sydney. Originally they wanted to be called Private Lives, but there was another band called Private Lives that threatened legal action over their name. So they changed the name to Real Life. And, but after hearing an early version of Send Me an Angel, the group's manager, Glenn Wheatley, was so impressed that he formed his own record label, Wheatley Records, and released it as a single in early 1983. And then, Real Life signed to Curb Records in Australia, which was distributed by MCA throughout the rest of the world. Their second single, Open Hearted, was released in 1983 and peaked at number 72 and in November of 83. And Catch Me I'm Falling was released, eventually reaching the top 10 in Australia and Germany. Send Me an Angel, again, is a 1983 song by the Australian band Real Life. The song peaked at the top 10 in Australia, and it's the band's best known song. The version peaked in early 1984 in the US at number 29. I did not know the song went that high.
I thought it went higher than that.
In the US, they released a re-recording of it called Send Me an Angel 89, which surpassed the original version in 83, and it reached number 26. Yeah, so they actually got three chart places higher with Send Me an Angel 89. Again, I prefer this version, but Will and Sherry are like, no, the 1983 version is way superior. It's way more goth rock, kind of, it's got that goth sound to it. Whereas the Send Me an Angel 89 version was a lot cleaner, but
I like both of them, but I would agree the original is the better of the two.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of people are that way. I think the only reason I like it is the bass is more prominent in the 89 version. The song appears on a nonstop pop in game radio station PC, Xbox One, PS4 version of the 2013 video game Grand Theft Auto 5. So one of the radio stations you could plays Send Me an Angel the whole time.
That's awesome.
And I think it's actually the 89 version. But that is basically it for our fan curated list. Again, I want to give a shout out to Sherry Kaufman Armitage, Will Tillman, and Robin Ryan, and a special shout out to Nalani, our patron, who approved the list.
That's really cool. I'm glad we had listeners that wanted to hear you cover specific songs, and I knew, I guess, 3 of them on there. So it was especially Send Me an Angel. That's one of my all-time favorites. I love that song.
It's a great tune. And honestly, both of the versions are exquisite. It's a great song.
Yeah. Agreed.
And some of these songs I may not have put in the list, so I'm glad I talked to these guys, because Coven, I had forgotten about that song, One Tin Soldier, but it's a really good song. It's very 1970s. It almost sounds like Schoolhouse Rock. She has that similar tone to her
Interesting.
voice. Yeah. But yeah, Face to Face, 1098. Until she said it, I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought of that song in 30 years. But yeah, so thanks to them. And thank you for going down that road with me.
Yes, thanks for our listeners for sending those in. That's just goes to show you we will cover things that our listeners want to hear. So send that stuff in.
That's right.
With that, I will take over on the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
And I'm going to apologize now. I've got some dogs that are just going a little crazy today. I've had to kind of keep muting, so
Okay.
it
I
may.
can't hear them at all.
Yeah, I try to hit the mute as soon as I hear one of them go off. So I don't know what's going on with them today. So for today, I got my information off All That's Interesting, Wikipedia, the FBI website, and Unsolved Mysteries. And this is the story of Tara Calico.
Tara Calico.
Yeah, I haven't done a missing persons one in quite a while, so this one is a missing persons case. It's still unsolved.
So maybe not a murder. Maybe it's a true crime.
Yeah, we don't know. We really don't know on this. Tara Lee Calico, who was born on February 28, 1969, is an American woman who disappeared near her home in Belen, New Mexico on September 20th, 1998. It's widely believed she was kidnapped.
Okay.
In July of 1989, a Polaroid photo of an unidentified young woman and a boy, gagged and seemingly bound, was televised to the public after it was found in a convenience store parking lot in Port St. Joe, Florida.
From New Mexico to Florida?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Family friends thought the woman resembled Calico and contacted her mother, who met with investigators and examined the Polaroid. She believed it was her daughter after taking time, growth, and lack of makeup into consideration, and noted that a scar on the woman's leg was identical to one that Calico had. Scotland Yard analyzed the photo and concluded the woman was Calico, but a second analysis by the Los Alamos National Laboratory disagreed, and an FBI analysis of the photo was inconclusive. Calico's case received extensive coverage on television programs such as A Current Affair, Unsolved Mysteries, and America's Most Wanted, and it was also profiled on The Oprah Winfrey Show and 48 Hours, and as of 2022, no arrests have been made and the case remains open. On Tuesday, September 20th, 1988, 19-year-old Calico left her home about 9:30 a.m. to go on her daily bike ride along New Mexico State Road 47. She rode that route almost every morning and was sometimes accompanied by her mother, Patty Dole, and so Dole knew the route really well. However, Dole stopped riding with Calico after she felt she had been stalked by a motorist. There was a recent incident in which a car drove aggressively by her, deliberately passing her multiple times, which made her nervous and less inclined to ride. She advised her daughter to think about carrying mace, but Calico rejected the idea. And on the morning of Calico's disappearance, she told Dole to come and get her if she was not home by noon, as she had plans to play tennis with her boyfriend at 12:30. And it was the same sunny stretch she had been riding for years, and nothing bad had ever happened. When her mother did not return, Dole went searching for her along Calico's usual bike route, but could not find her, so then she contacted police. It was the beginning of a mystery that would in time consume the nation, but for 10 months, Patty Dole and her husband heard nothing. On the afternoon Tara disappeared, Patty drove up and down the bike route looking for any sign of her daughter, and when she couldn't find her, she contacted the police. There were pieces of Calico's Sony Walkman and a cassette tape that were later discovered along the road. There were footprints on the ground that led to what might have been the site of a scuffle where the Walkman was found, and then bike tracks, possibly from Calico, were found nearby, along with a vehicle's tire tracks and an oil slick. Patty Dole believed that she might have dropped him in an attempt to mark her trail, and several people saw Calico riding her bicycle, but the bicycle's never been found. No one witnessed her presumed abduction, although several witnesses observed a light-colored pickup truck, possibly a 1953 Ford with a camper shell, following closely behind her.
Was that the same car that drove the mom off the road?
No,
Okay.
it was completely different on that one. Without compelling evidence of foul play, police began to question John and Patty about Tara's home life. Like, was their daughter happy? Did she ever talk about travel? Because they suspected the 19-year-old had run away from home, which was a hypothesis her family vehemently denied, describing Tara as a cheerful girl brimming with enthusiasm. John Dole, Tara's stepfather, said there was just so much she wanted to fit into a day. She was like a little machine. It was amazing. Patty and John waited, but no further evidence was forthcoming. Tara Calico had simply vanished.
Wow.
Then on June 15th, 1989, the Polaroid photo that we were talking about earlier of an unidentified young woman and a boy, both gagged with black duct tape and seemingly bound, was discovered in the parking lot of a convenience store in Port St. Joe, Florida. The woman who found the photo said it was in a parking space where a white windowless Toyota cargo van had been parked when she arrived at the store. When she walked out of the store, she saw a Polaroid photo lying face down in the parking space, and it showed a teenage girl and a young boy apparently bound with their hands tied behind their back, their mouths sealed in black tape, and it appeared to be taken inside a white van, so the woman took it to the police. She said the van was being driven by a man with a mustache who appeared to be in his 30s, and police set up roadblocks to attempt to intercept the vehicle, but the man has never been identified. According to Polaroid officials, the picture had to have been taken after May of 1989 because the particular film used in the photograph was not available until then. The photo was broadcast on A Current Affair in July, and Dole was contacted by friends who had seen the show and thought the woman resembled Tara. Relatives of Michael Henley, also of New Mexico, who had disappeared in the April 1988, saw the episode and believed he was the boy in the photo. Dole and Henley's parents both met with investigators and examined the Polaroid, and Dole said she was convinced it was Calico. She noted that the scar on the woman's leg was identical to the one that Calico had received in a car accident. Patty was convinced that she was a little older but without makeup, but that Tara was looking back at her from the Polaroid. In addition, there was a paper copy of V.C. Andrews' My Sweet Audrina, said to be one of Tara's favorite books, was seen to be lying next to the woman. Again, Scotland Yard analyzed the photo and concluded the woman was Calico, but the second analysis by Los Alamos National Laboratory disappeared, and once again, the FBI analysis of the photo was inconclusive. Henley's mother said that she was almost certain it was Michael in the Polaroid. The identification of the boy in the photograph as Henley is considered highly unlikely, as his remains were discovered in June of 1990 in the Zuni Mountains, about 7 miles from his family's campsite, where he had disappeared, and 75 miles from where Calico had disappeared. Police believe that Henley had just wandered off and subsequently died of exposure. In 2003, the Doles made the decision to move 2,000 miles from their home in New Mexico to Florida. It was a move they had wanted to make for years, but they hadn't been able to bring themselves to it because they always suspected that there would be a break in their daughter's case. After enduring dozens of fruitless tips and appearing on countless shows to beg for the news of their daughter, they decided it was time. Patty Dole said of their home in New Mexico that here there's not anything I can do that doesn't remind me of Tara, so it's time to move. In 2009, 20 years after the Polaroid photo was found and shared by the media, pictures of a boy were sent to the Port St. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say. Port St. Joe Police Chief David Barnes. I think I want to say St. Port Joe.
St. Port Joe?
Yeah, Port St. Joe. He received 2 letters postmarked June 10th and August 10th, 2009 from Albuquerque, New Mexico. One letter contained a photo printed on copy paper of a young boy with sandy brown hair, and someone had drawn a black band in ink on the photo over the boy's mouth as if it were covered in tape, just like the 1989 picture. The second letter contained an original picture of the boy. On August 12th, the Star newspaper in Port St. Joe received a third letter, also postmarked in Albuquerque on August 10th, and depicted the same image of a boy with black marker drawn over his mouth. The boy had not been confirmed to be the same one in the previous photo. None of the letters contained a return address or a note indicating the child's identity, making officials there believe it may have something to do with the disappearance of Tara Calico. The letters were sent at the same time a self-proclaimed psychic had called about Calico, saying she had met a runaway in California with whom she'd worked in the strip club, and this girl was eventually murdered. The caller said she had dreams excuse me. The caller said she had dreams suggesting the runaway may have been Calico and that she may be buried in California, but searches did not lead to any discoveries. The photos were given to the FBI for further investigation in hopes of finding fingerprints or possible DNA evidence. 2 other Polaroid photographs, possibly of Calico, have surfaced over the years. The first was found near a construction site in Montecito, California, and is a blurry photo of a girl's face with tape covering her mouth and light blue striped fabric behind her, similar to that of the pillow in the Toyota van photo. It was taken on film that was not available until June of 1989. The second shows a woman loosely bound in gauze, her eyes covered with more gauze and black frame glasses, with a male passenger beside her on an Amtrak train, and that film was not available until February of 1990. Calico's mother believed the first one was Tara, but thought the second one may have been a gag. Her sister stated they had a striking, uncalming resemblance. As for me, I will not rule them out, but keep in mind our family has to identify many other photographs, but all but those three were ruled out. In 2008, Rene Rivera, the sheriff of Valencia County, reported that he received information that two teenagers had accidentally hit Calico with a truck, panicked, and subsequently killed her. According to Rivera, the boys who knew Calico drove up behind her in a truck and some form of an accident happened. Calico later died and those responsible covered up the crime, Rivera stated, and he knew the names of those involved, but that without a body he could not make a case. He did not release the evidence that led him to this conclusion. Calico's stepfather, John, said the sheriff should not have made these comments if he was not willing to arrest anyone, and that strong circumstantial evidence should be enough for a conviction.
Kidding. What the hell?
Right.
Sheriff Barney Fife. Well, I know who did it, but I can't arrest him. Shut up.
Well, in 2013, a man named Henry Brown made a deathbed confession to police. He said shortly after her disappearance, he had been in the basement of a man named Lawrence Romero Jr. While there, he noticed what appeared to be a young woman's body wrapped in a blue tarp and buried in a makeshift grave. Romero, a man named Dave Silva, and another man with red hair told Henry that the body was Tara's. They said that on the day of her disappearance, they, along with a man named Leroy Chavez, were in a truck when they noticed her riding her bike. While trying to get her attention, they accidentally struck her with the truck and abducted her. They took her to a grave pit and raped her. When Tara threatened to go to police, Romero stabbed her to death while Silva, Chavez, and the third man held her down. They originally held her body in a nearby bush. However, as searches began for her, they moved her body to the basement. Henry told investigators that they threatened to kill him if he went to the police. He also said they got away with the crime because Romero's father, Lawrence Romero Sr., was sheriff at the time. He and the other men's parents were also allegedly helped cover up the crime. He apparently found a note written by Romero Jr. confessing to Tara's murder and destroyed it. Henry also told investigators that he believed the men later placed Tara's body in a pond near one of their houses. He also said her bike had been disposed of at a junkyard. Another man also came forward and told police that one of the suspects had confessed to him as well, and Romero Jr. later committed suicide in 1991. Despite the testimony of the witnesses, though, since Tara's body has never been found, no charges have been filed against the other suspects. In October of 2013, a 6-person task force was established to reinvestigate Calico's disappearance, but as of 2017, no arrests have been made and the case remains open. On October 1st, 2019, the FBI announced they are offering a reward of up to $20,000 for precise details leading to the identification or location of Tara Lee Calico and information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her disappearance. In September of 2021, the Valencia County Sheriff's Office and the New Mexico State Police issued a statement that they have a new lead on the case and that the focus of a sealed warrant for an unknown private residence located within Valencia County has been issued. However, no further details were provided. Today, Tara Calico has been missing for more than 30 years. Her disappearance remains one of the most haunting cold cases in recent memory, and at this point, it seems that only chance will turn her up. Sadly, Pat Dole died in 2006, and Tara's biological father died in 2002. However, her stepfather, John, is still alive and hopes that she will be found. And that's the story of the disappearance of Tara Calico.
That's really sad.
Yep. Like I said, I haven't discovered or covered a missing persons case in a while, so wanted to put that information out there because if anybody knows anything about it, they can always go to fbi.gov and give their information, because this is still an open case and they're still taking information on this case. They'd love to solve this one.
That's right. If you see something, say something.
Yes. So that'll take us to the end of another recording week with our ups and our downs. Hope you enjoyed the fan procured music list, and hope you enjoyed the missing persons story. So as always, you can find our information on nerderyandmurdery.com. There you can find our contact information. And if you wish to send in things you want to hear, please do so, because as you just heard, we will cover them.
Yes, we will. We also have a YouTube page, Nerdery and Murdery. Just type that in and you'll go straight to our YouTube channel. It's got all of these playlists. There should be a playlist for every episode, including this one, the playlist that we spoke about. You can go and listen to it and see what all we're talking about. So please enjoy that. And we'll also post videos of things that we think are funny and are interesting as well.
Outstanding. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You can also find the link to our merch page on our website, where if you wish to show off your Nerdery and Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something there. And if you wish to support the show, you can find the link to our Patreon, where not only do you get episodes early, but you get exclusive episodes that are available only to our patrons. The show does cost to produce and put on the air, so please do consider being a patron.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And lastly, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. It helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for us. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.